Hey everyone, I'm Mariana and I am back to filming videos. As some of you may have noticed, I took a bit of a break for a few weeks, an unplanned break, but here we are, and I thought what better way to jump back into things than with an old school wrap-up video. You guys seem to enjoy them. I know I stopped doing them for a while, but it's time to bring them back. I am not going to sit here and tell a long story about why I ended up taking a break. I know most people don't really care about it, and when other YouTubers take breaks, I just want them to get on with their content, so that's what I'm going to do. All I'm going to say is, don't worry, nothing dramatic happened. I just needed to step away for a little bit. And of course, as soon as I stepped away from making videos, my last video started getting tons of views. I did not expect this at all. It is now my second most viewed video on this channel. The #1 spot still belongs to the A Song of Ice and Fire discussion I did. This also means I got a lot of new subscribers, like 4,000 people, something around that number, subscribed to me since my last video, which is insane. And if you're one of them, hi, welcome. I do actually make regular videos. I am so glad you decided to subscribe, and I do hope you stick around. But yeah, I know I had all of these plans to make a bunch of videos for you. I posted some of these plans and then they kind of got postponed. Well, I filmed a couple of these and I absolutely hated them. I was not in the right place mentally, but now it's all good. I am motivated. I am excited to make videos for you, so I hope you are excited too. Let me tell you all about what I've been reading and watching in these quarantine times. First up, the books. I am not going to lie, this year has been a huge reading slump for me so far, for some reason, which sucks because 2019 was an amazing year of reading. You guys might remember I read so many great books, some of them my new all-time favorites, but 2020 so far, not that great. I am just now finally getting out of this reading funk, and I will let you know what book is getting me out of it in a minute. But since the beginning of March and up until mid-April, I have only finished 4 books. 4. Who am I? I know for a lot of people this is not a low number of books, and I am by no means trying to say that if you've read 4 books since the beginning of March, you're not doing well. That's not what this is about. But for me, 4 books in a month and a half is a little bit unusual. One of them I can't even talk about because it is a Russian thriller that has not been translated into English, which is a shame because this is a really good thriller. I think a lot of you would enjoy it, but there's no point in me talking about it since most of you would not be able to read it at the moment. And for the few of you who are Russian speakers, I read this. I liked it. As for the others, first of all, Half a King by Joe Abercrombie, which is the first book in the Shattered Sea trilogy. Can we just admire this cover for a second? I love these editions. They're so pretty. Half a King follows Prince Yarvi, who unexpectedly finds himself to be the heir to the throne he never wanted, only to be greeted with betrayal, cruelty, and a whole new set of challenges and adventures. Now, I am a big Joe Abercrombie fan. His First Law trilogy is some of the best fantasy I have ever read, and if you're a fan of dark, gritty fantasy, you need to check it out. It is amazing, and he has quite a few other books that are set in that fantasy universe if you want a full immersion. So he can keep you occupied for a while, and he releases books regularly, so you're not going to be stuck waiting for the next book in the series for, years. Definitely not George R.R. Martin shade right now. Back to Half a King and the Shattered Sea trilogy. These books are the only books of his that are not set in the First Law world, and they are YA fantasy. I was curious to check them out because obviously I love the author, but on the other hand, I'm usually not the biggest fan of the young adult side of fantasy, and I am happy to say that this is the best YA fantasy I have ever read. I still prefer his adult fantasy just because I feel like that's where Abercrombie's imagination and writing style really shine, and I love how dark his adult novels are. However, I will say that Half a King was a lot of fun, and I thought this was really, really good. I flew through this even though I was in the middle of a reading slump, which I did not expect, but that was a great feeling. The pacing is good, the story is engaging, there's a lot of twists and turns, there's a set of very fun and interesting characters. I loved the world building, and I thought the ending was very, very fitting. Gave this one an 8 out of 10 or a 4 out of 5 if you're on Goodreads, and I will absolutely be continuing with this trilogy very, very soon. Next, I read The Sundown Motel by Simone St. James, which was one of my Book of the Month picks, and I thought the premise of this sounded really promising. This is a mystery that involves a haunted hotel. The story takes place in two timelines, 1982 and 2017. In 2017, Carly is investigating the disappearance of her aunt, whose POV we are following in the 1982 timeline. I was actually really into this when I started reading this novel because the dual timeline setup was a really fun way to tell this mystery. However, I ended up feeling pretty neutral about this book. I liked it. I definitely enjoyed my experience reading it, but there really wasn't anything about this novel that really grabbed me. There was a lot of potential here, a lot of interesting elements that I was looking forward to seeing how they develop, but they all ended up being underused, even the ghost element, which was probably the biggest bummer for me. It's definitely an enjoyable mystery. It feels like a classic mystery at times, and the setup is a lot of fun, but I was hoping for something a bit more special, a bit more memorable, so I ended up giving The Sundown Motel a 6 out of 10. Finally, the last book that I finished just a few days ago is The Last Days of the Romanovs by Helen Rappaport. I do not have a physical copy to show you because I was listening to an audiobook. The title is pretty self-explanatory. This is a nonfiction book about the last days of the last weeks, I guess, of the Russian royal family and the massacre that ended their lives. It is a pretty sad book, and it's straight up brutal towards the end, if I'm being honest. I would obviously recommend this to anybody who is interested in that time in history. Rappaport writes really well. There's a lot of details. She clearly put a lot of research into this, which does make it difficult to read at times just because of how awful the events are. Even though you know this is where it's headed, it's awful. Personally, I prefer The Romanov Sisters, which is another Helen Rappaport book that I read in 2018, and I absolutely loved this one. So if you're trying to pick between the two, I would go with this one, but The Last Days of the Romanovs is a great book. I ended up giving it an 8 out of 10, and if you do have interest in it, then yes, I think it's worth checking out. It's very good. As for what I'm currently reading, there are 2 books, although realistically, I am only reading one of them. The first book that I am reading right now, not really, is Crime and Punishment by Fyodor Dostoevsky. And I have a pretty complicated relationship with this novel, I'm not going to lie. I read it as a teenager for the first time, and it was a struggle. However, every other Dostoevsky book that I read afterwards, I absolutely loved, and he is one of my favorite authors. So I thought, hey, why not give it another try? Maybe now that I'm older, it will grow on me and I will, actually enjoy it this time around. I've been reading it since March 7th. It's been over a month. It's just the case of I appreciate and admire the ideas that the author is trying to communicate here, but the book overall, I just don't love it. I'm determined to finish it. I don't have that much left, but if I'm being honest, I'm kind of making myself get through this, which is not a good thing. Don't ever do this to books. It's just the easiest way to get into a reading slump. So this is not helping me right now, and I am reading it, when I can tell myself, Marianna, time to read some Crime and Punishment. So I'll finish it, and maybe it will all come together and I will love it in the end, but I doubt it. The other book I'm reading, and one that I'm actually loving, and it's definitely getting me out of my reading slump, is Dune by Frank Herbert. Finally. Does this book need an introduction? I don't think so, but this edition requires a closer look. It is one of the most gorgeous things I have ever seen. I only started it a few days ago because the new Dune photos came out and I got so excited. You guys may know Dune is my most anticipated film of this year from my Lord and Savior, Denis Villeneuve. I love his films so much, so I cannot wait to see this movie, and I'm not confident that it's actually going to come out this year with everything that's going on, but whenever it does, I am so excited for it. And obviously I wanted to read the novel before watching the film. Also, I am listening to the audiobook as I'm following along, and the audiobook is so good. The narrators, there's like a full cast thing going on, are just great, and it's an experience I'm definitely enjoying. So I would highly recommend both this gorgeous edition and the audiobook, because yeah. Let me know if any of you are reading Dune right now as well. That's it for the books. Let's briefly talk about everything that I have been watching. First, let's talk about the TV series. I have been starting TV series and not finishing them. However, I did finish the Tiger King miniseries because everybody's talking about it, and obviously I needed to jump on that bandwagon. And yeah, everything you heard about it is true. It is some weird, crazy stuff. Like, I cannot believe people like this exist. How is Joe Exotic a real person, or anyone else on that show? Once again, Netflix does not disappoint us with their docuseries because it keeps delivering bingeable, addicting content. But also, if I'm being honest, I kind of expected a little bit more after all of the hype. Not more crazy, because there's plenty of that going on in that show. But as far as how this docuseries is put together, how the story flows, what they're going for with the structure and everything, it's kind of a bit of a mess. What it felt like to me is that they had a bunch of footage that was super strange and like they couldn't leave it out, but also they didn't have a cohesive way to put it all together. So they just threw it into episodes and they were like, people are going to enjoy this because, I mean, look at this. How could you not watch this train wreck? But if you think about the structure and how everything is put together, it's not the best docuseries, but you know, I watched it, and if they came out with more episodes, I would absolutely watch them as well. Also, it made me really angry because all these people suck. So I ended up giving this, I'm just checking my Letterboxd so I don't lie to you, I ended up giving it a 7 out of 10, which I feel like is pretty fair. I've also started watching Penny Dreadful, which you guys have been recommending to me for years. Finally, I have started it. I've only watched a couple of episodes and I am definitely into it. I am super interested in where this is going. Ava Green is just a goddess. I love her, but there's a lot going on in that show and I don't know how they're going to bring it all together, but yeah, it is definitely creepy and definitely worth the hype. Cannot wait to continue watching it. The last show that I've been watching is The Outsider. Now, I actually don't know why I stopped watching it. I was really enjoying it. I think I am 5 episodes into it, 4 or 5. I want to say 5. I did read the book that this is based on. I watched 2 episodes, I believe, and then I was like, wait, I need to read the book and then continue watching the series. And I think that is part of why I haven't continued past episode 5, because I know where this is going now. And I'm not gonna lie, I thought the ending of the novel was kind of underwhelming. Like, I finished the novel and it's pretty huge. And my feeling that I got left with was, that's it. From what I've seen of The Outsider, I actually think the show is better than the novel. At least I'm enjoying the show more. I think they fleshed out the characters better. I am loving Ben Mendelsohn as the lead. I generally like his work as an actor, but this show, he is perfect for the lead. Also, the actress who plays Holly Gibney is fantastic. I think she's probably my favorite character as of now, as far as I've watched. So I'm definitely going to finish that one probably soon, I don't know why I haven't finished it, but yeah, those are the two shows, Penny Dreadful and The Outsider, that I have been watching, but I'm not done with yet. Recommend more shows for me. Finally, the films that I've been watching. I have been doing a lot of rewatching. I'm checking out my Letterboxd once again, and a lot of these were rewatches. So on March 1st, I watched The Illusionist. I used to be a huge fan of The Illusionist. It was one of my favorite movies. I obviously am a fan of Ed Norton, and I generally really enjoy the topic of illusionists and that time period. I just think it's really cool. On a rewatch, it is definitely much more of a romance film than anything else, and so I still do really enjoy it, but I definitely take it less seriously than I did back when it first came out. I think it's a gorgeous film. I would definitely recommend it. Gave it a 4 out of 5, which is an 8 out of 10. Then I rewatched Drive, which I have not seen in a very long time. I want to say I haven't seen it since watching it in theaters. Maybe I watched it once after that, but you know, I kind of forgot how great this film was because it is fantastic. I might have actually appreciated it more on a rewatch than I did on my first viewing. Definitely the kind of film that just grows on you with repeat viewings. I do wish it didn't just beat you over the head with its themes because they're obvious as you're watching the film, and then there's just music and songs that are like, in case you didn't get what this movie was about, here's the song. And it's kind of silly, but whatever. I love it, and Ryan Gosling is fantastic in this movie. Then I watched The Prestige because, you know, you watch The Illusionist, you gotta watch The Prestige. Once again, a film that somehow keeps getting better and better every time I watch it. I forget all the details about this film. Not the main plot line, obviously. I remember how it ends, but everything that happens, every twist and turn, it is just so good. I love this film, and like I said, just keeps getting better every time I watch it. I gave this one a 9 out of 10. I don't know if I told you what I gave Drive. I gave that one a 9 out of 10 as well. These rewatches were really working out for me. Then I decided to do a thing on my Instagram that I was going to film a video about, and actually filmed a part of that video, and then, you know, just my whole hiatus happened. I'm going to do this thing again because it was a lot of fun. Basically, what I had in mind is have you guys pick my movies for me for a week. So I had you guys pick a genre for me on Instagram, and then within that genre, you guys made movie suggestions, and then there were a few tiebreakers that you guys voted on. So there are 5 sci-fi movies in here that I watched because you picked them, which was amazing. Can't wait to do this again. So keep an eye out for something on my Instagram about suggesting some movies for me to watch. You'll see it. Follow me on Instagram. But the movie that most people suggested I watch within sci-fi was Starship Troopers. Completely unexpectedly. That was the last thing I was expecting, but you know, I've never seen Starship Troopers, so here I was watching Starship Troopers for the first time. This was some really strange stuff, but I liked it somehow. This was a movie that definitely kept me going back and forth on how I feel about it, because it is a very unique satire that asks you to sympathize with ideas that, like, in your brain you know are wrong, or challenges you to not sympathize with these ideas, even though the lead characters are all for it, and the film wants you to follow the lead characters and everything that's going on. The visual effects were pretty dated, which I expected, to be honest. This is a movie from 1997, so yeah, but I did not expect how violent it was going to be. This movie is pretty graphic. I was not prepared for it, but I ended up giving it a 7 out of 10. It's definitely an interesting film, and I actually ended up watching quite a few videos and reading some stuff online because I wanted to know what other people thought about it. It was unexpected. Then I rewatched Coherence, which is a film a lot of you seem to love. I got a lot of recommendations to watch it in the past, and I saw it and was kind of underwhelmed. I rewatched it this time because once again, I got a lot of suggestions to see it, and I liked it more on my rewatch, but I still think that this movie just lacks in execution. I think the concept of it, I don't even want to ruin it. It's the kind of movie you want to go into just completely blind. It's definitely sci-fi, but it's like the concept kind of sci-fi that is pretty grounded, but takes kind of a what if situation and runs with it. I'm not a fan of the camera work, and I don't think all of the actors in this are amazing, but I do really appreciate the concept, and I was able to be into it more when I watched it the second time. I think my expectations were so high the first time I watched it because so many people were raving about it. So I ended up giving it a 7 out of 10. Initially, I gave it a 6 out of 10. So there's that. Then I rewatched Dark City, which is a film I remember absolutely loving. And when I saw it for the first time, it completely blew my mind. It was the case of I watched it and then I immediately wanted to watch it again. So I kind of did, and I still loved it, and it blew my mind again. And then I watched it on and off a few times, but haven't seen it for, I don't know, maybe 6 years at this point, something like that. It's been a while since I saw it. And I was glad you guys chose this one for me because I was really starting to wonder if this would hold up for me, if I would still think this is mind-blowing. Well, it was still mind-blowing. I love the world building in this film. I think the world that this film creates is absolutely fascinating. I love the aesthetic of it all. It's kind of a futuristic sci-fi neo-noir situation, which is awesome. The themes and ideas that this film represents are just so, for me, this is the kind of sci-fi I want in my life. Plus, Rufus Sewell as the lead. I love that actor. He's so underrated, and he is wonderful as the lead. Plus, Jennifer Connelly is in it, Kiefer Sutherland. It's a pretty fantastic film. Yes, the effects once again look a little bit dated in certain scenes, and it almost makes me want to see this remade, but in capable hands, because I think if the visuals were stepped up and some of the dialogue was a little bit less kind of cheesy, there is some cheesy dialogue in there, this would be like a new cult favorite. But as is, I still rate this film a 9 out of 10 because I think the story and the themes and the world building are just fantastic. I'm realizing I am not explaining the plots of this at all, but honestly, looking at all these films, The Illusionist, self-explanatory, it's about an illusionist. Drive, everybody knows what that movie is. The Prestige is a Nolan film, so of course everybody knows what it is, and it's about two illusionists. Starship Troopers, very famous sci-fi film from the 90s. Coherence, Best to Go In Blind. Dark City, also Best to Go In Blind, to be honest. It's about a city, and there's something weird going on. You kind of have to figure it out. It's a puzzle of a film, and it all comes together. After that, I took a little bit of a break from sci-fi, and I rewatched Enemy, which was the first Denis Villeneuve film that I ever saw years ago. Immediately was mind blown. Knew this was a director for me because that movie is great. It is about two Jake Gyllenhaals who are doubles of each other, and one Jake Gyllenhaal is trying to figure out what is going on and why there's a second Jake Gyllenhaal. Also kind of a puzzle of a film because you have to decide for yourself what it all means. It's not one of these films that's just throws stuff at you and expects you to make up the story on your own. No. You have to put it together. It wants you to think about it. This used to be my favorite Denis Villeneuve film because it was the first one I watched, and you never forget that first experience with an amazing director and discovering an amazing film. However, as we all know, my favorite Denis Villeneuve film now is Arrival. So initially when I watched this was a 10 out of 10 film for me because of how amazing it was. But now, after seeing all of the director's other films, I kind of have to take it down to 9 out of 10 just because I wasn't aware of the potential this guy had, okay? So now compared to the rest of his films, I can't rate it a 10 out of 10 because it's clearly not as amazing as his most amazing films, but still pretty freaking amazing. Love it. We'll watch it again in a heartbeat. Back to sci-fi, another film you guys said I should watch is District 9, which is also a rewatch for me for something that I haven't seen since seeing it in theaters. There's a theme developing with all these rewatches. And once again, a film that I wondered if I would enjoy as much as I did when I saw it in theaters. And wow, does this movie hold up. It has a great story. The effects, even though they're 11 years old now, just look like they're not even effects at all. It looks fantastic. It is heartbreaking. It is crazy. I love this film. I gave it a 9 out of 10, and it is forever relevant. I don't think there's going to be a time when this film is not relevant. It is just really good sci-fi. The only people who I think wouldn't enjoy it are people who really like space opera, really clean type of sci-fi. This is definitely gritty sci-fi that wants to challenge you with kind of projecting real life problems onto sci-fi. So if you're into that, this is your kind of movie if you haven't seen it somehow. Definitely watch it. And if you're like me and you're thinking maybe this movie isn't as good as I remember it to be, it is even better, probably. It's great. The last sci-fi film that you guys picked for me was Tarkovsky's Solaris. And I was anticipating rewatching this one because Tarkovsky films are always such an experience for me. He is a magical director, one of my favorite all-time directors. I'm always a little bit intimidated watching Solaris because it is almost 3 hours long, so it's kind of a commitment to say the least. And it starts out pretty slow, but it's necessary for the rest of the story, so it's absolutely worth it. I mean, I love this film. I ended up giving it a 10 out of 10, as I did in the past, because it is a masterpiece, and you could make hours and hours of video essays on this film and like barely scratch the surface. It made me want to reread the book that it's based on, which the book blew my mind completely when I read it a couple years ago, and then rewatch this film again and then reread the book and then rewatch the film. I would like to keep going in the circle of Solaris because the concept of an alien ocean planet situation that just messes with your brain and tackles the idea of how much memories affect us and how dangerous it is to have memories have a huge hold on us and not let go of things. If you like philosophical sci-fi, this is your film, this is your story, and if you haven't read the book that this is based on, I absolutely 100% recommend it. Then, for something completely different, I watched Honey Boy, which is a film I missed last year, and I am kind of sad I missed it because it is excellent. This is the one where Shia LaBeouf plays his father, and then there are two different timelines with Lucas Hedges and Noah Jupe playing the film version of Shia LaBeouf. And it's a really good film. It is a little bit messy as far as storytelling goes, but that doesn't even matter. I was so sad because of this film, but it was kind of a good type of sad, if that makes any sense. I wanted to give Shia LaBeouf a hug. I wanted to give my entire family a hug. It definitely had a strong emotional effect on me, which I think is the point of it. So I would highly recommend you watch it. I ended up giving it an 8 out of 10. I was kind of between giving it an 8 out of 10 and a 9 out of 10. I'm still not sure I gave it the right rating. Maybe it's a 9 out of 10 for me, but yeah. Excellent film. I'm pretty sure it's on Amazon Prime right now. Yeah, it's on Amazon Prime right now. So you can watch it for free. If you have that, check it out. And finally, the last film I watched in March was 1917. I haven't seen it since seeing it in theaters. It hasn't been that long because I saw it for the first time earlier this year. And I was really curious how well would it hold up on a small screen on a rewatch, and I'm here to say this is still as fantastic as it was on the big screen. It's just so stressful to watch this movie, but in the best way possible. It's one of the best war films ever made. I do have a review for it, so if you want my more detailed thoughts, you should watch that review because I stand by everything everything that I said there. And that is going to be it for this wrap up. Let me know what you guys have been watching this quarantine season. I think it's a season at this point. How have you been doing? I hope all of you are okay. I really do hope all of you are okay, because these are some weird times. If you are one of the essential workers working right now, thank you so much. We need you more than ever, because once again, this is a difficult time for everybody. I hope all of you are doing okay. I hope you are staying safe. I hope you're taking care of yourself. And if my videos can help you take your mind off things in any way, then I'm happy to do that, because I'm ready to film all of the videos again. I'm so glad to be back. Also, if there's a particular video you would love to see, anything film or TV related, rewatching favorites, Q&As. Obviously, I'm working on the second part of movies that's changed my life. Reviews for all-time favorites, any kind of movie-related story time, anything, let me know in the comments. I will see what I can do. I am open to all kinds of video ideas. I want to do something that you guys want to watch and talk about things that you want to hear about. So let me know in the comments below. I am tired of talking at this point. This video is so long. Thank you so much if you made it this far into the video. You are freaking awesome. And of course, a very special thank you to all of my patrons who are still supporting me on Patreon. I could not be more grateful for all of you. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up, share it, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And I hope you're having a pretty great day, as great as it can be. I will see you very soon in my next video. I promise it will be soon. Bye.